Blessings. Welcome to the Circle of Heka. I'm Lady Amaris. So it's been a little while and I came across this tag from Alice in Tarotland. I saw a few people who had done it and I thought, well, I'd have a look at the video. And I was pleasantly surprised to see that I was actually tagged in it. I haven't really been on social media for a little bit, so I kind of missed it when it first came out. So yeah, I thought, wow, I didn't realise I was popular enough to be tagged in a video. So thanks. So I thought I would do it because it gives me a chance to dip my toe back into doing videos. And it's not often that you get to see a Southern Hemisphere witchy tag. So I thought I'd jump on board as well. So thank you for Alice in Tarotland for tagging me. I don't watch a lot of YouTube videos these days, so I'm a little bit rusty when it comes to tagging anyone else or knowing anyone else. So hopefully if you're watching this and you're in the Southern Hemisphere, make a video. All right, first one. Let's see. Where are you based? So I'm based in Perth, Western Australia, and I've been here all my life. I've travelled here and there, but basically born in Perth and raised in Perth. So I live at the moment pretty much close to the central CBD, just a little bit out, close to the river, it's far enough away that it's not too loud, but at the same time it's central to Perth City. I have lived further out at different points in my life, but at the moment central to Perth City. So yeah. Do you identify as a witch or by another name? Yes, I identify as a witch. I always have. I haven't really been that vocal in the past about it. It's not like I'd stand up and introduce myself as a witch. If people ask, yep, that's the way it goes. But I would say that yes, I'm a witch, but I don't like to put myself into a box and say, because a witch has, like any label, has those preconceived notions about what it is and what it isn't. And I myself am a practitioner of magic. So yes, I'm a witch, but I also like to do other things that from the outside would probably look like different forms of witchcraft, or different forms of magic, different forms of maybe ceremonial magic or chaos magic, or whatever label people like to put onto their system. So I'm a witch, and my idea of a witch is someone who can bend and shape reality and use what's at their disposal. So it doesn't matter what happens to be around, it doesn't matter what system you may be using at which time, as long as you're not kind of garbling and muddying the waters, but it means that you use what's at your disposal. So the light's kind of coming in and out. So sometimes I'll look fabulous and other times I'll look a little bit kind of So bear with me. Trials and tribulations of nature being your light source. Okay, number 3. What's your belief, worldview, or current paradigm? Big question. I'll try and put it down, into a little tiny little box. This would be the very basic kind of explanation of my viewpoint. I believe that there is magic in everything. Everything is magical. Everyone is magical. And some of the most mundane looking things can be the most magical things. Some of the most mundane people can have the most magical insight. So the whole don't judge a book by its cover idea, and that magic can be found in many different places. There seems to be the whole witchy magical aesthetic that goes on, and then you can't, if it doesn't fit into that preconceived magical aesthetic look, then it mustn't be magical. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but you, as I said, you can find some magical, profound things in some of the most mundane places. So magic and energy is in everything. I also believe that at the moment people are crazy, which is one of the reasons why I haven't really been on the internet slash social media slash lots of things recently. I've done a little bit of a detox, a little bit more introspection, and getting in touch with a little bit more of nature as opposed to what's happening on the internet trail, because yes, people are becoming crazy, and I kind of attribute it to the fact that it's one of those cycles. It's one of those large cycles. If you've done any kind of research into anything in spirituality, you will find that there are those cycles where people will have that time when they do become crazy. And I on a personal level believe that it is because the Earth's magnetic field is weakening, and that leaves us susceptible to cosmic rays, which can be good or bad depending on your makeup, where you are, where your psyche is at any given time. So it can open up things. So being that a lot of people are interested in a lot of the metaphysical, spiritual things, they're becoming a little bit more aware of this, but at the same time not really doing a lot of the inner work that's needed to transverse some of these spiritual ideas or spiritual planes. And because our Earth is open up to those cosmic rays which help to open up those liminal spaces, if you haven't done that work, or you haven't got a strong constitution, let's say, you will start to go a little bit mad. And I've just found that people are just a lot of the time irrational and very emotional, and I find that is, it's just a little bit of brand of crazy has started to come in. So my worldview is get yourself in order, get your inner self in order, because life is turning towards the testing time, and you can either go a little bit around the twist, or you can traverse that space and do your inner work, do your inner warrior work, if that's how you want to put it, and traverse that with strength and confidence, and rise to those challenges and come out on the other side stronger and a better rounded person. So a great big can of worms opened with my worldview and paradigm at the moment. So maybe I'll go into it a little bit more in another video, maybe not. We'll see. Number 4, what are your current go-to tools? Again, I find there's magic in everything. So I said I'll do the thing is my go-to tool is myself. I am the ultimate tool, which is true because you're with yourself all the time, and if you can't witch without certain tools, then you're hindering your work. So you should be able to witch with anything. You should be able to, you should be your first and foremost most powerful tool that you will use in witchcraft. Your body, your breath, your blood, all of those sorts of things will be your first and foremost tool. But I do enjoy the candles. The candles are wonderful, and my athema is used a lot for certain things. But a lot of it is just what I have in my hand at the time will be my go-to magical tool and myself. So a little bit twee, but that's what it is. Number 5, do you cast a circle? If so, what do you associate with the directions? I cast a circle, yes, but it will always depend on what it is that I'm doing. Sometimes I won't cast a circle for certain workings because I don't feel that it needs it. Other times I will. It just depends on what it is and what we're doing, what I'm doing and what the circle is doing. I don't feel that you need to cast a circle every single time for everything that you do. It's a good way when you're learning to get yourself into that ritual mindset, get yourself into that ritual space. But after a while, it's something that you can do quite easily. It's like anything. If you've done something over and over again, that repetition, you already know what it feels like to get into that space. So you can get there a lot easier, a lot quicker than if you are starting from no experience at all. So the more times that you do something, the more experience you have, the actual experiential experience that you have, the quicker and easier it is for you to get into that space, or to is to cut it down to its most salient points to be able to get into that space. But the thing is that you can't do that straight away. You have to go through do the hard yards of actually experiencing and doing it over and over and over again. But so it becomes part of your DNA. It becomes almost like muscle memory, and then you can start to play with it a little bit. A lot of people, I think, like to jump straight into the let's play with it a little bit without the actual grounding experience of going through the actual circle casting. So yes, back in the day I would cast a circle at the drop of a hat. Anything that I was doing I would cast a circle, but it has now come to the point where through experience I know when and when not to cast a circle depending on what it is. How that circle is cast, again, it will depend on what it is, whether it is just a bubble of energy around myself when I am doing, when I'm making something or doing some kind of small little working, to a big full-blown, robes and regalia and whatnot, and words of power spoken to spirit. So it takes on those forms. What was the next part of the question? What do you associate with the directions? Again, everyone has their different ideas on that, and no one person is correct, because your magic is your magic. what works for you works for you. As long as you've got a strong understanding as to why you're doing something, not because you've just read it in a book and that's what Gerald does, but so that's what you do. As long as you've got an actual understanding of why you do something the way you do it. Now, in the Southern Hemisphere, I've heard a lot of people who would say that because we're in the Southern Hemisphere and in a way the elements are flipped. So in the north we would have fire, and in the south we would have earth, and then in the west we'd have water, and the east would have air. And even to the point where people in the eastern states would have air in the west and water in the east, due to geographic reasons. Then that would go into, all right, well, there are specific geographic regions all over the place, and you could be working in a valley where you have, you maybe, to really flip it on its head, you may have mountainous regions in the east, and it gets hotter when you head west. All of those sorts of things start to play into the directions when you're looking at it as a geographic or water hot, fire hot, water wet, air blows kind of idea when you're looking at it as a physical thing. The thing is that when it comes to magic, you have the physical, you have the experience part of the elements where, hot, cold, wet, dry, you have those ideas. But also the elements have a more internal or mystical, mental, spiritual idea, where they are different concepts as well. So it depends on what your circle is for, whether it may be a circle that is to connect with your genus loci, or the spirit of place. So you would have some where you would do the directions according to what is happening in your geographic area, so that you can connect more with the land that you're in. If you're doing a magic circle because you're casting a circle because you're doing a magic work to bend and fold and create a situation, then that circle would be something else where the directions would have a different idea. It wouldn't be the fact that when you go further north it gets hotter. It wouldn't be that if you go further south it gets cooler. It would all depend on. Wouldn't depend on. The geographic situation. It would depend on what those elements or what those directions mean, and that's basically because of how I view the actual underlying ideas of the elements. So the east is about communication. It's about the mind. The south is about fire. It's about will. It's about that spark of life, that energy that pervades all living beings. Water is about the womb and the tomb. It's about the water of life. It's about your blood that goes through your body. The fact that your body is also 80 to 90% water, and then earth is about that physical manifestation of the air, the fire, and the water. It's about the physical manifestation of the mental realm, the spark of life, that electricity that goes through all things, and also the emotional body that coagulates and becomes a physical thing in the earth. And so the magic circle is more of almost a manifestation machine. So that means that those ideas that are attributed to those directions or concepts are utilized in that magic circle, as opposed to being the water wet, air blows, fire hot concept that is more to do with a circle that is connecting with the aspects of the land. So I have a video about the magic circle, which I'll probably put a link to, that kind of explains it a little bit more, but that's pretty much what I do. As I said, everyone has their own different way of doing things, and no way is better than another. No way is more correct than another. It's just the way that it goes. There are so many different streams of magic. There are so many different currents of magic, and you tapping into whichever current works for you is how it goes. Okay, number 6. Do you work with the seasons or wheel of the year? Yes, I do work with the seasons. I understand and feel the energies of the seasons. The seasons in the Southern Hemisphere are obviously different than they are in the Northern Hemisphere, depending on where you are in Australia as to how extreme those seasons may be. Whether if you're up in the top of Australia in Queensland, you're going to have a totally different experience than you are if you are in the very bottom left-hand corner of Western Australia, where it is a lot colder and a lot wetter and whatnot than it is in the top of Queensland. Or for that respect, just speaking on Western Australia, if you're in the top of Western Australia, it's going to be a lot hotter and humid and drier at different times of the year than it is going to be at the bottom of Western Australia, where it is a lot cooler and a lot wetter and a lot more green. Use your words. A lot greener than it is in the top of Western Australia. So yes, I do work with the seasons. I find that sometimes I have those different times when it's more like a hibernation. A lot of the times that's during the summertime because it's really, really hot. But there are times when you just feel like you want to just curl up and have a little bit of a sleep in wintertime because it's also cold and dark. So, those. I'm a lot more. I'm a person that enjoys the autumn and the spring a lot more than I do the winter and the summer. So the wheel of the year. Again, many people in the Southern Hemisphere flip the wheel of the year to go with the seasons, and I do that as well. So when it is winter in the Southern Hemisphere, we're celebrating Yule or the winter solstice. When it is summertime in the Southern Hemisphere, we are celebrating the summer solstice. So obviously that's going to be flipped in the Northern Hemisphere. We have that balance when it comes to those things of the Northern and Southern Hemispheres of both peoples are celebrating the opposite. So it becomes a whole thing. Or astrological celebrations, and then you have the solar celebrations. So in what I'm saying is the solar celebrations being the equinoxes and the solstices. So the summer and the winter solstice and the vernal and the autumnal equinoxes. And then the greater Sabbats, which are Lughnasadh, Samhain, Imbolc, and Beltane. And I've always liked the greater Sabbats more. I found that I resonate more with those, especially Beltane and Samhain. They are my two favourites. We're coming up to the vernal or spring equinox, and that's the time of my birthday, so I enjoyed that one as well. But I prefer the the greater Sabbats more. The other thing with the Wheel of the Year is that there are a lot of the things that are attributed to the Wheel of the Year obviously are for the Northern Hemisphere. So the astrological signs, the actual way that it is formed, the stories that it uses to illustrate the Wheel of the Year is basically for the Northern Hemisphere, and that doesn't translate in an astrological way or a physical seasonal way to the Southern Hemisphere. So yes, I work with the Wheel of the Year. I do flip it, but at the same time, I am very aware of the Wheel of the Year being not only a physical thing, but much like the magic circle of what's happening in a physical way with the seasons. I'm also aware that it is to do with a lot of astrological phenomena that happens. I hope that explains it. Okay, moving right along. Do you have a consistent daily or regular practice? Yes, I do. Now, it may not on the outside look extremely witchy or wondrous, and I'm not doing things that are the same as I'm not casting a circle every day. I'm not getting into robes and creating sacred space in this wonderful large hour-long ritual that and then sitting and meditating for 2 hours, and then doing all these sorts of things, because one, there's a lot more going on in my day than just being able to sit and meditate and create space. So that'd be lovely, but which is got to do, which is got to do some stuff. So my daily practice is that I will always light incense and give an offering of incense to spirits, to deity, to whatnot. That would be the most consistent thing that I do every day. I do different things each day. Sometimes I will only just, one day may be that I will just offer incense and that will be it. Other days I'll have a larger amount of things that I will be doing. There will be times when I'm actually creating things for my shop where I will be either, I'll cast a small little kind of circle around where I'm doing things. It may be that I'm chanting, singing songs to add power, maybe a little bit of bit of dancing, all of those sorts of things that I do when I'm creating and constructing magical items for my shop. So I don't know, I suppose if you had a video of it'd be a hilarious fly on the wall video of watching me create my stuff. So I don't know, maybe we'll put that in the works. I don't know. I might film it and then I'll just trash it. But all of those sorts of things are those magical things that you do every day. They don't have to be these huge elaborate things. And I find that a lot of people get a little bit overwhelmed, a little bit find it daunting when it comes to starting a practice, that they believe that they have to sit there for ages meditating and creating a circle and doing spells every single large, big spells in a large circle every single day, and it becomes this huge thing that either is just too hard to sustain because life changes, life ebbs and flows, and some things become more come more to the fore and others, recede, and, your family commitments may start to encroach in on things, which means that these large, big daily practices that you want to do when you first start, and you're going, oh, I'll do this, and I'll do this every day, and I'll be this uber witch, doing all of these fabulous things, and you've bitten off more than you can chew. There's just too much for you to be able to sustain on a regular basis. So that means that you should always strive to do something small, something consistent every day. Whether it's sit in front of your altar for 5 minutes and just ground and center, or connect with your deity, light a bit of incense, or whether it is something of that you would just go into your garden if you've got one, and just do a little bit of gardening, and that can be your magical connection with your place. Myself, I'm always talking to the spirits of my house. I talk to my house. My house is my protector. I live inside my house that protects me and keeps me safe. So, and my house is a living, breathing thing. So, talking to my house, and when I leave, and saying, goodbye, we'll be back in a little while. Keep everything safe. The protection bear that I have in my car, I'm always talking to my bear, and giving and feeding energy to that. So there's things that on the outside just look really mundane, and you're not really, you've got this idea of what witchy things are supposed to be, but they can be quite mundane things. It can be you just with a pen and paper writing a small spell, or writing some intentions that you put into practice. It doesn't have to be this quill pen and a whole lot of crystals and magical candles and whatnot. It can be some of the most mundane things that can also be some of the most powerful things, because it's things that you can do consistently. I do love getting my hands dirty. I do love getting in there and with the candles, and getting my fingers in the dirt, getting my fingers in the oils, rubbing, things, the blood and the bone and all of those sorts of things. I love doing those, but that's not something that I can do every single day. And if I did, I feel that I would kind of burn out. It'd just be too much. So you need to do the same thing of the ebb and the flow. Sometimes you'll just do a few little small things, and then there'll be times when the energy is just palpable, and you just go, yep, I've got to get right in there and get my hands dirty and start to get really witchy. And then other times it will just be just this light kind of lighting some incense, having some intention. So I do something every day. Number 8, are there any challenges, blocks you find specific to witching in the Southern Hemisphere? Not necessarily. I've lived in Perth, and I've lived here or in the Southern Hemisphere all my life. I do know that when I have gone into the Northern Hemisphere for holidays and stuff, I do feel the difference. And I do know that some people who have come from the Northern Hemisphere, or even people who have come from the eastern states to come to Western Australia, find it a little bit hard to get their bearings. And I think it could be something to do. It could be just something that is part of Western Australia, is that because we're a little bit drier, I find just for myself that when a place is a lot wetter, that there's a lot more water around, and water and ley lines I find are very, very much connected. That it's a lot easier to connect with that and feel the energy of a place than it is when it is drier. I find that when a place is drier, it's almost like that energy has kind of pulled right back, right down deep, and you have to take time to really connect with that space. Australia in general is a wild place. You go out and there are huge ants, there are spiders, there are snakes, there are things that just want to want to do you some damage. And so going out into these spaces, a lot of the times you have to keep an eye out. You have to keep your senses out. So you can't just almost sit and commune with the energies. You have to be a little bit more aware about what's going on around you. I find sometimes that people, and it could be just a personal thing, that people commune with the energies, but they're not really, they're more just communing with themselves. And they're not really understanding what's going on around them. So I find that going out into these places, you have to keep, one eye on the magical and another eye on what's going on around you, being aware of those sorts of things. So there is that wild, untamed thing going on that people may find connecting with the energies in Perth specifically may be a little bit harder. When it comes to other things, just like some of the more material things, there's lots of wonderful events, lots of actual things that the Northern Hemisphere, they have lots of things. Like going, I'd love to be able to just go on a little field trip to the Witches Museum in the UK. I'd love to just take a take a little jaunty step over to New Orleans and look at a lot of the different shops and whatnot that's there. Some of the wonderful things that they've got, some of the wonderful events that they have, and just being able to talk with different people. But because it's just the distance is not there. Even in Western Australia, a lot of events that happen in the eastern states, I'd love to be able to do lots of those, but just geographically it's just too far away a lot of the time. If you want to buy something, the postage is quite large for a lot of things. Plus, you've also got the exchange rate for different things. Just adds on a lot of cost to things. And lastly, there's a few things, especially specific to Western Australia, is that there's a lot of herbs and things that I would love to be able to have in Western Australia that are available in the eastern states, but because of our quarantine laws, we're not allowed to have them. So we can't play with all the toys that everyone else seems to be able to have. So that would be one of the hurdles that we have for witching, specifically in Western Australia, but also for the Southern Hemisphere, is that being able to have and hold some of those special little witchy things that you want, you can't have because of geography or laws that are in place. Lucky last. Are there any Southern Hemisphere resources, books, blogs, YouTubes, etc. you would recommend? I'm sure that most people who have done these videos have probably recommended the same kind of people. Let's see, off the top of my head, there is, she used to be called the Chaos Witch. Is it Iris Elizabeth? I'll put all the links down below anyway. So she's not far from me. She's in Western Australia, so she's got some really good stuff. Avalon Cameron, who is in Tasmania, she's got some wonderful stuff. Crimson Fire, who I think is in Victoria, Melbourne, Victoria, not like in Melbourne, but just in Victoria. Wonderful stuff. I haven't looked at some recent stuff from Alvine Green, but she had some wonderful stuff, and I'm sure she still has. Who else? Alora Ray. She's not technically from the Southern Hemisphere, but she is living in Perth at the moment, and she's got some nice stuff. And I think sometimes when you are new to an area, you are obviously, or new to something, you have a different perspective. You see things in a different way, and you explore and you discover things that people who may have been living there all their life or have been doing things in that area may not be aware of, because it's that thing of you live there, so it's not special, so to speak. So having looking at things through another's eyes is a great way of remembering and discovering things. That's why I like to look at people who are new to witchcraft, because they have that looking at things with new eyes. So you look at how someone is approaching something and you go, wow, I've never thought of it that way. So it's always good to look at different perspectives. So yeah, Alora Ray, who is American, but she's in the Southern Hemisphere at the moment, so she's witching with the Southies. The Southies? Gosh. Okay, so if you're in Perth and or Western Australia, there are things like combined covens, which you can kind of network with people. They do different events here and there, coffee club, and they have a little bit of a camp. So that's a good way of trying to, if you want to connect with other people. Other resources, I probably will put a few things down below because they're not coming to mind straight away. What else? Some books that I have read in the past which were quite good. Fiona Horn has got a few things that are quite good. I think she's got a new book out recently. What else? Lyde DeAngelis, I think I've pronounced that correctly. She's got some books that I enjoyed, Witchcraft in Theory and Practice, and the other one, The Wild God, or when I See the Wild God. That one was good. So the thing is, when I recommend books, there's things that I like and things that I don't like with lots of different books. So the same with lots of different resources and lots of different YouTubers. There's things that I like and things that I don't resonate with, and I think that's just life. So hopefully if you do read a book that I've recommended, that you don't go, oh gosh, some of that stuff was that's not for me. And it's like, well, that's life. You take what resonates with you and what works for you. And so I'll probably put a few more down when my brain kind of, as soon as I shut the camera off, my brain will go, oh, why didn't you say this and why didn't you say that? So I'll put it down below. So I think that's the last one. Yes. Yeah. So thank you to Alice in Tarotland for tagging me again. I saw that and I thought, oh, I'm famous. I didn't think I was that. Because you see lots of tags and your name is never in there, and then you kind of like, but now I'm famous. People have to have my autograph now. Yeah, thank you. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it made sense and I didn't ramble around too much. And with any luck, I'll be making a few more regular videos. Many blessings.
If you like this video and want to see more, please click on the links provided. If you think this witchcraft thing may be for you, please subscribe. Blessed be.